Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It's nearly the end of the month, which means it's time for me to look ahead to next month and see what I'm going to be reading. And this time, you've chosen those books for me. So you might have seen in one of my recent videos, I put up a poll. I had 4 different categories and I asked you to pick my May TBR for me. So I had books in my physical TBR, continuation of series, self-pub books and sci-fi books, and then my patrons also picked from a different category for which I gave them short reads. So 4 books in each of those categories, and thank you very much to everybody who voted in the comments on that video. I've now gone through and selected the winners, or not selected the winners but checked the winners just by totting up all of the mentions of each individual book. So I'm pleased to say that there were winners for everything, except of course for my patrons who like to give a tie, so I had to give them a tiebreaker. So I've got 5 books to go through, but before we get to them, I am also in the middle of a buddy read. My book bestie Nina and myself are listening to the Expanse series. We've done book 4 now, so in May, continuing with that, we're going into book 5, which is Nemesis Games. I'm not sure what to expect from this one. I haven't read the synopsis. I don't do that with these ones anyway, but I can't remember from the show kind of where we went after the events of book 4, but I'm looking forward to getting back to some characters who've not been around so much as yet. So we'll see where that one goes, but I'm definitely looking forward to it because I am enjoying my journey through the Expanse in book form. I know at some point we will go beyond what I've seen in the TV show, and I'm looking forward to that as well, but I'm definitely enjoying my time as we get to that point. So in terms of the categories and the voting then, first up we had my physical TBR, of which I did make one mistake because I compiled this list, I went through it all, I filmed a video, I did the graphics for it, and it wasn't until partway through filming the video when I'd already committed that I realised that one of these books isn't actually on my physical TBR. I don't own a copy of it, so whoopsie. But there we go. That book didn't win, so spoiler alert, but it does mean that the book that I'm going to be reading is definitely one that I own. So the 4 that I had in this category were The Black Hawks by David Ragg, The Grey Bastards by Jonathan French, Blood of an Exile by Brian Naslund, and then the one that I don't actually physically own, Kingdom of Liars by Nick Martell. This one was quite close in the voting, and as I was going through the comments and tallying up the score for each book, there were 2 that were neck and neck right to the very end, and I thought there was going to be a tiebreaker. In the end, we had 14 votes for Blood of an Exile, but beating that with 16 votes was The Grey Bastards by Jonathan French. So I know a number of people on my Discord have been looking at this book and wondering when I'm going to be reading it because they're looking at a buddy read. So if you're available for that one, I will be reading it in May. This is book 1 of the Lotland series, and I have read the first chapter of this one for another recent video I did, looking at the first chapter of 5 books on my physical TBR. Blood of an Exile was another one of those books. I'll read through the synopsis though, because I don't think I actually did that at the time. So we've got Jacko and his fellow half-orcs patrol the barren wastes of the Lotlands, spilling their own damned blood to keep civilised folk safe. A rabble of hard-talking, hog-riding, whoremongering brawlers they may be, but the Grey Bastards are Jackal's sworn brothers, fighting at his side in a land where there's no room for softness. And once Jackal's in charge, as soon as he can unseat the Bastard's tyrannical, seemingly unkillable founder, there's a few things he'll do different. Better. Or at least that's the plan, until the fallout from a deadly showdown makes Jackal start investigating the Lotlands for himself. Soon he's wondering if his feelings have blinded him to ugly truths about this world and the Bastard's place in it. In a quest for answers that takes him from decaying dungeons to the front lines of an ancient feud, Jackal finds himself battling invading orcs, rampaging centaurs, grubby human conspiracies alike, along with a host of dark magic so terrifying they'd give even the heartiest bastard pause. Finally, Jackal must ride to confront a threat that's lain in wait for generations, even if he wonders whether the bastards can or should survive. So a lot of people have been talking about this one over the years. It was a winner a few years ago of SPFBO before it was picked up by a trad publisher and the series continued. It has now finished, so all 3 books are available. Should I like this one, I can then move on to hopefully finish the series at some point in the not too distant future. So that's one category down. The next one on the list was continuations of series that I'm already in the middle of, or I say in the middle of. 3 of these I've read book 1, one of them I've also read book 2 of. So the books that we had in this category were Pale Kings, book 2 of Emaneska by Ben Galley, No Place for Peace, book 2 of Pillars of Peace by Tom Dumbrell, The Splinter King, book 2 of the God King Chronicles by Mike Brooks, and We Cry for Blood, book 3 of The Reborn Empire by Devin Madsen. 2 of these books finished level, but there was one that was quite a bit ahead actually, with 19 votes to the 14 the other 2 got, and that means that the book I'm going to be reading, and I will listen to this one, is going to be Ben Galley's Pale Kings. I really had a good time listening to the written, which is why I'm going to continue this one on audio. I loved the narration that we had there. It's a big chunky book, so having it on audio is definitely a good advantage for me as well. With this one, I'm not going to read the synopsis because it's a continuation. It's book 2 in a series, and if you haven't read it, it might give spoilers. But I was intrigued by the opening part of it, which is Emaneska is crying out for a saviour. The only question is, can they kill a child to save the world? So that is a bit of an intriguing one. As I say, I'm definitely interested to see where this goes. I know a lot about the world from the first book in there, and I'm looking forward to diving back in, exploring a bit more, and seeing what happens next. So that one's a great self-pub series. The next category I've got is specifically for self-published books, and in this one, the 4 that I had were Queens of the Weird by Tamandra Whitecastle, The Worthy by Anna K. Moss, Marauder by L.L. McRae, and Obsidian Awakening by Sienna Frost. And again, this one was for a while quite close, but there was a clear winner with 19 votes, which along with Pale Kings is the most individual votes that any of these books got, and it's going to be Marauder by L.L. McRae that I'm reading next month. This is book 1 in her world of Linaria. In Linaria, dragons are revered as gods, airships command the skies, and across the land war is brewing. Devastated by their father's death, Marauder and her sister struggle to make ends meet. Things go from bad to worse when a rogue dragon destroys their city. Fleeing on a sky pirate's airship to escape the chaos, the sisters find themselves penned in by untrustworthy companions, a bloodthirsty warlord, and dragons on the rampage. For Marauder, who would do anything to protect her sister, nowhere is safe, not even the sky. The balance of power in Linaria is shifting. Can one woman make a difference? I look forward to finding out. So then I had 4 sci-fi books for you to pick from, and again this was closely contested, with the winner just edging out second place by 1 single vote, 16 to 15. In here we had Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovsky, Iron Truth by S.A. Folin, Those Left Behind by N.C. Scrimger, and Sea of Rust by C. Robert Cargill. And that final one that was recommended to me by Jonathan from Words in Time. Go check out his channel if you haven't already, I'll leave a link down below. That one was the one that came out ahead of Shards of Earth as the winner of this category. So the synopsis for this one is quite a long one. A scavenger robot wanders in the wasteland created by a war that has destroyed humanity. It's been 30 years since the apocalypse and 15 years since the murder of the last human beings at the hands of robots. Humankind is extinct. Every man, woman and child has been liquidated by a global uprising devised by the very machines humans designed and built to serve them. So that's what we're all worried about, isn't it? Most of the world is controlled by a one-world intelligence, all the shared consciousness of millions of robots uploading into one huge mainframe brain. But not all robots are willing to cede their individuality, their personality, for the sake of a greater, stronger, higher power. These intrepid resistors are outcasts, solo machines wandering amongst various underground outposts who formed into an unruly civilization of rogue AIs in the wasteland that was once our world. One of these resistors is Brittle, a scavenger robot trying to keep a deteriorating mind and body functional in a world that has lost all meaning. Although unable to experience emotions like a human, Brittle is haunted by the terrible crimes of a robot population perpetrated on humanity. As Brittle roams the Sea of Rust, a large swathe of territory that was once the Midwest, the loner robot slowly comes to terms with horrifyingly raw and vivid memories and nearly Unbearable Guilt. So this one Jonathan specifically picked out for me. He said it should be a good fit for my taste. It's got some good humour in it apparently, which I think I might need with this book, and I'm looking forward to checking it out and seeing how it goes. So that brings me to the last category, and as I said, I gave my patrons some short reads to pick out for me. The four that I had there were The Assassin of Malkazay by Brian Asher, The Beast Hunter's Dark Sovereign by Krista Linder, In Solitude Shadow by David Green, and Shockwave, which is a sci-fi book, and I didn't write down the authors of these. I'm going from memory and I can't remember who that was by. I think it might be Lindsay Buroker. I do apologise if it's not, and if it's not, I'll pop up the correct author's name at the bottom here. So that's some fantastic preparation right there, isn't it? This one obviously had a smaller number of possible votes. The two books that were tied were The Assassin of Malkazay and Beast Hunter's Dark Sovereign, and from the tiebreaker where I did a blind vote, I didn't know which of the two books they were voting on in the tiebreaker because it was just two emojis that I'd randomly assigned one to each book. The one that came out on top in that blind poll was The Assassin of Malkazay. So this is book one of Brian Asher's Intercontinent series, a connected series of books that are all different. This one's fantasy. Book two, The Treasure of Lorev, is a sci-fi, so definitely an interesting concept and an interesting overall world. An aging mercenary struggles to find meaning while chasing a contract many believe is a lie. The king's daughter toils with a life-changing decision to follow her family's path or forge a new one. A young boy possesses a power no one has seen since the kingdom's greatest nemesis. Behind them sits an assassin lurking in the shadows who will unwittingly unite them all. This is noted as being a heroic adventure of self-discovery and bravery, evoking classic pulp tales like Conan and Elric, with a mix of modern fantasy for its perspective and character development. So I've not actually read Conan, I've seen movies, but I've not read any of the books, and I've not read Elric either, but that's not the important thing here. I am looking forward to reading this book. I've had it on my shelf for a while, so it's about time I got to it. So there we go, 6 books on the plan for next month. You may notice that I've not got my TBR jar with me. I'm not going to pick one of those out this month as well. But if I finish all of these in good time, then the TBR jar is there for me to pick from. I'm really excited to get into each of these books. It's really good for me to get back into my reading plan after reading all the SBFBO finalists, which kind of took me away from it a little bit. So it's good for me to be getting back towards the track of where I should be with my reading plan. As usual, let me know down below in the comments if you've read any of these, which ones you think I'm going to enjoy the most, and are you interested in reading any of these along with me? As I say, there may well end up being a buddy read channel in my Discord for the Grey Bastards at the very least. As usual, the links for all my social media, including that Discord server, can be found below this video. I'm going to leave you there for this video. I hope to see you in the next one sometime soon. Until then, as always, take care of yourselves, read some good books. Bye for now.